Picture this. You've been counting down the days to a brand new video game, and when the day finally comes, the game is, We've all been there, but sometimes things improve after a few hours, which is why this week on Gamers Said, we're asking, how long does it take for you to decide if a game is good or not? First off is Avril, who says, quote, "Not gonna lie, from 2 minutes to 2 hours at most for me, as I've played around 1,000 games. I gave Hollow Knight most chances because of all the praise several times for 2 to 3 hours each on and off for half a year or so, and it never clicked. I didn't like it. It's too shallow. Can't comprehend how people start to like the game 10 hours in. If the fundamental gameplay structure is borderline subpar to my expectations and preferences, I'll drop it no matter how greatly written is the story, or music, or whichever other element." Wow, Avril with a hot take on Hollow Knight, but I really can't talk because I've never played it. But I think your answer is fairly generous. 3 hours spent on anything is a chunk of time, especially a video game that isn't really clicking with you. But I think you've touched on something we'll be coming back to plenty during this discussion. If you feel like you've seen everything a game has to offer, and you're not enjoying yourself, then it's probably time to switch over to something new. Next up is Sleepy Cat, who says, "I start out considering if I like a game or not by looking at how well it's made. Is the plot and gameplay cohesive? Are the style and graphics original and well done? Is it engaging, or does it feel bland or unfinished? I especially hate games that are released in early access and feel empty. Then it depends on the genre, but I mostly tend to realize if the game is any good in the first few hours, even if it's a subjective judgment, of course." Looks like we have another vote for 3-ish hours. And yes, Sleepy Cat, early access is a fairly nebulous term. Sometimes it means the game is dropping in 2 weeks, other times it means it can be in early access for years. I can understand the distrust, but like you said, if the game isn't empty but instead shows promise, that's different. And, well, rare. No offense to developers, but Sleepy Cat ain't wrong here. Up next is Vlad, who says, "In many cases, an hour or two is enough for me to decide whether to stick with a game or move on. However, there are times when I give massive games much more time and only get hooked after 20 hours or so. For instance, this was the case with Elden Ring, which was the first Souls-like game I ever completed, and I'm so glad I gave it the time it needed." Ah, Vlad, I envy you. Your first From Software experience was Elden Ring? That's like going to a Vegas buffet for breakfast. And I think any From Software fan has had the exact same experience of curiously looking through a game, although I will say that's mostly a compliment to From Software's design. They string players along arguably better than any other major developer today. I mean, how many times did you fall to the Godskin duo and still come back for more? That's From Software. Up next is Natalie, who says, quote, "Story and gameplay for me. For a game to be good, I have to love the story, but it also has to have some fun gameplay. I want to enjoy the game just as much as I would enjoy the story." Wow, Natalie, those are pretty high standards, but we've certainly seen story take a center stage in several major games. I mean, what would the new God of War games be without their great narrative? Or how about Square Enix creating an extended cut of Final Fantasy VII with their newest remakes? And of course, there are smaller indie games that nail their gameplay and narrative like the Friends of Ringo Ishikawa. Thankfully for players like Natalie, stories are only getting better by the generation. Up next is Frostshade WC, who says, quote, "It starts as an early hook for me. If I find the adventure or game hook intriguing, then odds are I'll consider it a good game unless the gameplay is just cheeks. For example, Black Ops 6 is the first Call of Duty game I've enjoyed in years, and that's all because of its fantastic story and hook. I was immediately drawn in and stayed enraptured, even though the weirder bits, which to be honest were my favorite part by far, Call of Duty could make an absolutely goated horror game." Frostshade WC, I am right there with you. I think Black Ops 6 is far and away the best Call of Duty since at least the Modern Warfare reboot in 2019. I love the way the game feels and evangelize to all my friends as well as all you faithful viewers here at Game Rant. But I've also seen a growing dissatisfaction with the Omni movement system, with some players saying they still prefer Modern Warfare 3, especially for multiplayer. The debate continues, but I totally agree with Frostshade WC. Finally, we have Muskid, who says, quote, "I just get hooked on a game if it has a good original soundtrack. Don't judge me, but that's one of the reasons I even played Doom Eternal and got hooked to Hotline Miami 1 and 2. Muskid, I could not agree more. Music is one of the most powerful tools in art and psychology. Everything from Zelda to Halo to Final Fantasy, franchises that have lasted decades survive in part due to their tremendous musical scores. Heck, people straight up spend money to see it performed live in concert halls. If that doesn't prove music matters in games, I don't know what does. Well, now's the time of the video where I give my answer, and this one's a little personal. See, I feel pretty confident about my ability to play a game and give it a fair assessment, and that's exactly exactly what I did with Rainbow Six Siege in 2015, and I walked away after a few hours feeling fairly confident that it just wasn't a good game. Well, the year is 2025, and Rainbow Six Siege is still popular, and it's good. I got that one wrong, so I agree with everyone here. A few hours is usually more than enough, but one game has caused me to second-guess my judgment ever since. And honestly, I'm glad I have, because it's opened me up to even more types of games. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. Why not continue the conversation in the comments below, and thank you to everyone who sent in their answers. Keep clicking around here on Game Rant, and we'll see you next time.